Good morning and welcome. Welcome indeed to a Friday edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast, as we're broadcasting live always from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today, 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Yes, we're getting ready for another weekend of football here in the great state of Florida for high school, college, NFL, even Pee-wee football. This guy does a great job. We've not talked in a long time, and I appreciate him coming on with me here on a Friday. He's going to be busy later tonight. He is Josh Wilson. He does a great job covering high school football for his great platform, and I'm going to let him talk about it. Josh, how you doing today?
Doing all right, Mark. It's good to see you. I know it's been a minute since we talked last, but boy, it's as I said earlier this week in my shows that I do 8 different shows on FloydHSFootball.com and stream them on YouTube. But it's hard to believe we're already at week number 4 here in terms of high school football in the Sunshine State. It seems like the season just goes way too fast every year. It seems like it goes quicker and quicker and quicker. But I think maybe it's going a little too fast because we haven't had to stop and pause for Mother Nature's little antics out in the Atlantic Ocean this year so far.
Yeah, look, it happens. Like, okay, if you're in Iowa watching this, if you're in New York City, understand in Florida, okay, and there's probably like in Louisiana as well. So we have games that start in early September, 7 o'clock with the kick. Then there's a lightning delay for 90 minutes, and then the game doesn't end till 11 o'clock at night. Do you try to prepare yourself with your coverage when you have these late nights like this?
Oh, I mean, you mean outside of those few late night games where a team has ended up on the West Coast somehow, which, where they start at 10 o'clock here, our time, it really just comes down to you have to really just kind of just buckle down that that you're going to end up with a few games every week at least that are going to run until 11:30 at night, or they're sitting there, you don't know what the heck the status is of the game because but we were delayed and we postponed and we don't know when we're going to reschedule, and it's like come on now. It's like and what I found out recently, I brought it up on my shows here about this, Mark, is that the FHA built in a universal bye week at the end of the schedule, week 12, so to speak,
Yeah.
But they said it's reserved for just if we get struck by a hurricane. But I'm like, okay, what happens if we don't get hit by a hurricane this year? Because my gut feeling leans to me saying that we may not get hit this year, just the way it's looking. Okay, are you going to open up that week for anybody to make up those games? That's like the games that have been hit the proverbial game graveyard, so to speak, in week 12 for those teams to make it up, especially when we know that every game is critical in terms of the FHA Max Plus Power rankings, which once those start coming out, that determines team's season. Okay, am I going to make the playoffs or am I not going to make the playoffs if I don't win my district?
It's a great question. All right, I want your thoughts on this. So I am 43 years old. When I was growing up, and I say this, I'm going to sound like an old man. Get off my lawn. So here's what it used to be. So like when I was in middle school, junior high, high school, there was this feeling like high school sports was, hey, you'll get your name in the paper. Yay! Get your name in the paper. Or in some of these small towns, even into the 2000s, hey, the game's on the radio. Friday night, we'll have that one game on the radio. Now, look, people are broadcasting on Facebook, YouTube. There's all this coverage, your website, other websites. I think it's pretty amazing how high school sports, the coverage of it has completely blown up where everyone's getting covered now. What are your thoughts? Because since you do this for a living, what are your thoughts on the evolution of media for high school?
Well, I can say the newspapers have taken a step back. That's no offense there, but I feel like in terms of newspapers, they have taken a step back, and it's you think about it, it's like, well, no, you can't even go pick up the paper the next morning after your Friday night game because you're not going to see that headline until Sunday if they put it in print. By the way, it's. It's changed, with a lot of the broadcasting, a lot of the shows that are out there now that, obviously YouTube, especially the YouTube platform has been huge. And obviously there's the NFHS network that does a lot of games too.
Yeah.
But just seeing that where, a lot of people can get out there, put games on, do all that kind of thing. It really does amplify it. It's just that I think, there's the other side of it is that I tell people it's like, this stuff ain't free. Yeah, I know y'all. We me and you grow up. I'll be 39 at the end of the year, so we're in that same kind of age group where we saw where we came the evolution of the internet. And the newspaper. Everything was free. For a long time, and it's not that case anymore because there is a lot of cost. And at the end of the day, what we do. Hey, it's our livelihood. So if we're not making ourselves a paycheck, how are we going to go out there and cover the kids? So I tell this to people, it's like, look, I can't be 10 different places at once on a Friday night or any day of the week. It's just not, it's impossible. But to, man, I
gave you a loaded question. I understand. I get it.
On this because it's like, okay, there's guys out there. I mean, like, okay, Alan of Brevard Sports Network is a good example of what he does. YouTube. They have like 4 or 5 different games on a Friday night. I mean, obviously the school's doing what they do with the NFHS network. That's another big thing. But it just, in social media, obviously, I still call it Twitter. I mean, I still say it's X, Twitter, whatever it is, whatever hops that comes up to my mind first. That's for a good platform in terms of sports, but it's a lot of the kids these days TikTok. I'm still trying to learn TikTok.
You got some work to do, buddy. You do.
Instagram is another one still. I mean, Instagram where I got building the social media followings. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time.
I used to have, so this is one of my first jobs. This is like 20 years ago. We used to play so when I was in Iowa. What would happen was we would play the games Friday night, and then we'd replay them on our television station Saturday morning for TV. Parents, because this is how crazy technology has changed, parents would come to me and say, hey, can you put like a demo reel together of my son playing high school football? We'll pay you, and then maybe we could put that in the actual mailbox and send it to colleges. Now, which is awesome for high school kids, now it is on social media. Here you go.
The coaches have several different platform options to use. I mean, you got Huddle out there, you got Quick Cut, just to name a couple of those where, hey, the next morning they're chopping up highlights. They're off to the college coaches via email. They don't have to go drop a VHS tape into the mail anymore or in the day of the age was where you got the coaches where they, trading game film for playoff purposes. They're not flying, this is good classic example of, I believe this happened years ago. And gosh, what was it? It's early 2010s. I want to say it was Admiral Farragut. One of them flew. I think it was Admiral Farragut. They flew a plane to meet Glades Day to exchange film.
Yeah, look, dude.
Back when Admiral Farragut and St. Pete had football, they haven't had football since COVID happened. So, but when they met, they flew like they literally some of these schools out in long distance would get in a plane and go and fly. This is how much things have changed. Now you just click a button, it's already to the other coach.
Hey, they used to have fax machines for signing day. That used to that was when you send your fax in. Okay, and look, I'll just say this, and then let's talk about some teams. You bring up a great point. Hey, high school sports has really blown up, which is really cool. But there are people like yourselves and others who do a great job. It is a business. It is one of those things like, hey, if you are a consumer, you want some of this coverage, hey, there's going to be a cost involved. You can't just drive around the state for free out of goodwill. Hey, you want to do this right. You want to be a professional. Yeah. So I give you credit, Josh. I know it's not easy, but you and others do a great job with your platform.
No, I appreciate it because really, there's not really in a lot of retrospect, while there's a lot of coverage, based upon the social media accounts of the schools and what they do and the teams and all that, there's really not a lot of us left on the media side of it. And it's, there's been a shrinkage. And when that shrinkage happens, it really, it's caused some things. I mean, that's kind of the noise and distraction, because I do have a subscription platform on my website, but that also led to, there's some disagreements about that. Like, oh, you shouldn't be charging to cover the kids. It's like, well, wait a second. No, it did lead me to a good sponsor, which is the Florida Coaches Coalition. At the end of the day, it's one of those things, Mark. It's just that, for us to do what we got to do, we do have to make a little money here somewhere. Otherwise, we're not going to be around too much longer. And that's just, it's the catch-22.
I bet in the 8 shows you had on this week, this was none of the discussions. I bet.
No, not at all. But we've had discussions about weather over, obviously, we bring on, different coaches and stuff to talk about that. The weather's been the big thing, because it's like, I'll tell you this, the big hot topic is, okay, we can't go out and during the wet, if the wet bulb is hit that number, that magic number where we can't go out and practice, but you expect us to come 7 o'clock and that magic number is sitting there on the wet bulb, but you expect us to go play a game. That's where coaches are complaining about right now.
Okay, here's my number one complaint, and I've been waiting months to ask you this question. So I know it's one thing we change where the state championship games are played in the state of Florida. Sometimes Orlando, Daytona, Tallahassee. I know it changes. That's fine. Here's my thing. Local television has no programming, no local stuff. And traditional TV, which I work on, by the way, it's one of those things. You've got to give people a reason to keep watching you. They'll watch for, notice NFL football, college football. You got to watch that in real time. You can't watch it on demand through Netflix like it's a streaming series, okay? You got to watch it, and if it's Sunday 1 o'clock, you got to watch it then. My thing for the FHSAA is put the state championship games on local television. Fox, NBC, ABC, put them on, and you'll get a gigantic number. People want to watch it. I know you got paid subscription. Put it on the local TV. Come on.
I know, and some people say, why don't they do something like what they do in Georgia, which they use the PBS stations there in Georgia for that kind of thing. I mean, you got a network of PBS stations here in Florida. Why not use them? But I digress. I make suggestions to the people there at 1801 Northwest 80th Boulevard here in Gainesville, and sometimes they'll listen to me. Sometimes it's I don't want to push too hard on them.
Look, here's my thing. Just put it on television.
Okay? I know. I agree because a lot of people would like to watch on television. They would like to be able to get access to it without having to go through 10 different hoops just to get to the state, to get to the game.
Okay, we went 12 minutes. We went 12 minutes. Didn't even break down one game. I take great pride in that. So let's get to it. Josh Wilson does a great job. Yes. All right. Tell us what's the website we could check out for all your details.
FloridaHSFootball.com. That's where you can go. Okay. But X / Twitter, that's at FLIHS Football on the social media, and everything else is at Florida HS Football. And on most platforms, there's a blue check there. So, that's the real deal. If you don't see a blue check, or it looks like it's even potentially, if you don't see a bunch of followers, obviously it may not be the real deal. Outside of the TikTok, that's I'm working on growing. So I will say that. But the other platforms, yeah, just if you're not uncertain, just find me. I'll message you. You can message with me, and I'll message you back and verify yes or no.
Okay, all right. So for the first time in years in this area, Brevard County, people are not ranking Cocoa the number one team. And they are the defending 3 straight state champions. They are a powerhouse. They are nationally known. And I take great pride in this program. I do. I love the coaching staff. Those players, I always root for them. I'm not kidding around. The local Florida Today newspaper, Brevard Sports Network, and Space Coast Daily, everyone's agreeing here. Maybe it's O'Galley at number 1. What are your thoughts on what's going on right now with the 1-2 and probably should be 0-3 Cocoa Tigers right now?
Well, they ain't wrong about that. I mean, I started working on a algorithm formula this year. I've published it so far. It's about 74% correct on picks this year. Last week it was about around 76% on right. But it's not liking Cocoa either. So that tells you anything. It has sunk Cocoa pretty badly here with the way it's gone here. I mean, you thought, okay, you come out, take care of Merritt. Oh no, you need double OT for that one. Okay, Malin comes in. No, we're gonna lose this one by 5, and then Vera Beach just totally manhandles you last week. I mean, I looked at the stats of that, and I'm like, this is. It just seems like just real quick. It just seems like you start off week 1 and it's going. You're just on the proverbial decline real quick, and that's it's. Who at the start of the year, I would have Coco pegged to be in the state championship game, but right this second, I'll just say right here, 2A is probably potentially wide open right now for the picking for any team, because now they can. I'm sure there's a lot of other teams right now licking their chops. I'm especially sure the Villages is licking their chops right now in that district with Coco, like saying, hey, we may have a chance to get them this year if this is the way they keep playing. It's shocking.
Okay, here's what's funny. It's not the NFL. It's not college football. You're at high school level. The fact that Coco year in and year out is putting these players on, it's amazing. It is. There's a part of me, and I'm not giving up on Coco. I just want to clarify that.
No. I don't think anybody is giving up on Coco.
But it's just like, look, dude, you had to replace. Okay, your starting quarterback last year is now the backup at Texas A&M. Your Mr. Football at wide receiver is starting for Florida State right now, right? And then this is my biggest problem. So you have to have the harder schedule. You have to do it. I get it. But some of these teams, is it going to bite you in the butt after a while if you keep stockpiling all these hard teams you're going to take on?
That's the thing. And, and I know there's the question this week, you've got Heritage on the schedule this week for Heritage Palm Bay. I mean, some people are saying, hey, and I believe it. The in-county winning record right this second, that winning streak right now against in-county opponents, that it's definitely very vulnerable right this second. Because I mean, Heritage has definitely played some good games. I mean, that 1-2 record for them is a little bit deceiving in terms of who they played so far. So at the end of the day, I get it. Both teams have played hard schedule, but I mean, it's just I want to get a finger on Coco, but if they drop this one to Heritage this week, it's going to be even harder, I think, if you don't somehow come up with the district. I mean, Coco could still win the district and get in the playoffs and say at a 5-5 record, that's fine. But, is it, are you going to be ready for the run in the stretch run? And I hope that's the case for them in that situation. But, hey, maybe the rough start at the start of the year, the first 5 weeks or so, that rough start pays off and you start getting hot later on the season. I've seen teams do it. I've seen a team do it. I watched a team in the first year, they had the world classification, go 5-5, and they end up running to the state championship and winning it. So, I mean, it really, it's not necessarily how you start, it's how you finish, but you got to figure out how to finish, because if you can't finish, then you're not gonna win. You're not gonna be hoisting that trophy up come December.
Well, the other thing is the last couple of years, and look, you got to give credit to Coco. They won a lot of games. They'll have a bye. They'll be home for a lot of the playoff games. Is this one of those things like, all right, you make postseason, you might be a road warrior as well, trying to get to the state title?
Well, that's a potential depending on where the FSA Max Press rankings put them at. Because if they say win the district, but they're in that bottom half of the region, they may get a home game for the first round, but they're going to be road warriors for the rest of that streak because of just the way the numbers are going to fall, because they're going to be a lower seed. That's a potential. So I don't want to get y'all's hopes up high on one side, for Coco, saying, hey, you're going to be a top 4 seed. You'll be home for most of the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Because right this second, you're in a position that you could be, you could win your district, but be in the bottom, 5 through 8. Or, you may not win your district and you're sitting there potentially looking at being in the playoffs, but you could be a one and done this year. There's all the scenarios are on the table here, and that's where I think people need to understand is that this is not the Coco, obviously, of the last 3 years. This is definitely not that kind of team. I mean, it just really is. I give Ryan Schneider a lot of credit. I mean, I know, he's brought that coaching mentality. Obviously, when he came up here, got hired, and from St. Thomas Aquinas, he's brought a lot of what he learned under Roger Harriet. Obviously that's worked here at Coco, but at some point, these things come in cycles. teams come in cycles. So you're going to hit that point where you go low, and then you're going to come back and you'll hit the high again. So, and maybe this is where the point where Coco hits that low because, you ran so well. Now it's, okay, maybe it's going to be another team this year in 2A, but, whatever the classification brackets look like, after this year, because reclassification's coming up, that's a whole other hot button topic in the state.
I can't keep up. I'm not gonna lie to you. You do this for a living. I can't keep up with who plays who. I give up.
I can't even keep up who's playing who some days because here's a team that's independent last year and they're back in the classification this year. So it's one of those things, and I'm just like, oh man, Mark, there is at least one admission from the FHA executive director that Florida does have too many classifications in football and other sports. So at least I think we got an admission somewhere that there's an issue here with the number of classifications. But how do you look at it? How do you divide these teams up? I thought Metro Suburban was like, hey, at least it's the closest thing to equitable football, and it's sure enough that I proved it in 2 years. But it going back to what we used to have, I mean. Blowout city. I mean, I just don't love it. I don't love it in that sense.
We're here with Josh Wilson. Does a great job. Yeah, FloridaHSFootball.com is the website. All right, can I ask you about O'Galley, who lost their quarterback? I think they're going Wildcat for the rest of the year with Xavier Larice, who I had on my show. Great kid. What is this a good team? What are they exactly?
I think they're a good team, but not having that quarterback, that changes up everything. And I mean, oh man. And you got a tough opponent in First Academy this week. The First Academy putting up the points they did on Treasure Coast last week. I mean, we're talking about First Academy, who could potentially be 3-0 walking into this game. They're 1-2, but that 1-2 again, another deceiving 1-2 record. For O'Galley, I mean, this is a team that you run the Wildcat. Wildcat can be successful. I mean, we've seen many teams do it. I mean, let's just look at Wildcat single wing type scenarios. Let's look at the Popka for many years. What did they do when Rick Darlington was running around the sidelines there at Popka? Pretty much successful running that. So if Chris Sands wants to borrow a page from the Rick Darlington playbook, this is the time to do it. Go ahead and do it, because what do you have to lose at this point? So I mean, First Academy is going to be they're going to be a hard foe. If they can pull off a win, that'll be a big win for them. Losing your quarterback week 1 at Vero Beach. I mean, obviously Vero Beach, suffered a little bit of the same side on there too in that game. It's gonna. The question is 3A is kind of a similar situation like 2A, where O'Galley is at in 3A. It feels like it's kind of wide open in some aspects for the teams that are going to make it, but outside of the biggest elephants in the room are going to be Miami Northwestern and Miami Central. If anybody can get past those two teams, you have it made. But it's going to be hard.
Okay, I want to ask you this then. You bring up Vero Beach, and they've been great over the years, and they're a great dominant team at home. Is this team are they special? Like what?
I think they're special this year. Because you beat O'Galley week 1, obviously. Okay, state semifinalist number 1. First state semifinalist on your schedule you just beat. All right, you make the 3.5 hour trip up the turnpike up to I-75 to Gainesville to play Buchholz. You win that game in the last 30 seconds. Oh heck yes, a good Buchholz team that was another team that has been state semifinalists for the last 4 years straight. And then you beat Coco, defending state champ, and you beat them pretty soundly. There's nothing in my mind that says no, that this team is not special. This team's special. Even my power rankings are picking up on Vero Beach. Vero Beach is like, this is a team that, hey, they deserve to be top 5 right now in the state. I mean, that's they've earned it. They've earned it these first 3 weeks. And for when I saw the score out of between Vero Beach and Coco, I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
they trounced them that badly. Yeah, I mean,
because O'Galley got down big to them, lost their quarterback, but at least put a fight up in the second half and made it a game. Coco got hammered,
and Coco didn't put a fight up, and that's the thing. When I started looking at the box score, I'm like, they just didn't fight. It seems like somewhere along the way, it was either the fight was lost or they just mailed it in. Basically, that's the way it looks like. And when you mail it in, when you're a team that mails in whatever you're doing, that's where it becomes frustrating. If you're a fan of us, whatever school you're a fan of, or whatever college team or pro team you're a fan of, and when a team mails it in, you get frustrated. I mean, I speak for myself as a Jacksonville Jaguars fan when they kept mailing it in last year. Like, come on, fight.
Hey, you're 1-0. Come on, buddy. You could beat Joe
We're
Burrow.
1-0 because our team didn't mail it in, and they fought.
Okay, before I let you go, let's have some fun questions here. And thanks for coming out with me, buddy.
Oh, no, I appreciate it, man.
Okay, right now, gut reaction. Doesn't matter what, 3A, 4A, I don't care. Who's, in your mind, the best team in the state of Florida right now for football?
Oh, goodness, that's a loaded question, considering that right this second, let's put IMG Academy aside to the side over here. I mean, because they're national, but they're also Florida based, obviously. But they're right now the top team in terms of the rankings in the state, based upon regardless of classification. But gosh, I mean, if you really want to talk about it, it really boils down to you got Chaminade Madonna, St. Thomas Aquinas, you got American Heritage Plantation. I mean, all three, they're just. Man, each one of them has got they already have one loss on the season. I mean, but they've played a tough schedule already. So I think it's like a 1A, 1B, 1C type scenario, just because it's just but it's to be expected. And that's the thing. A lot of people that don't realize those are things to be expected. But West Boca Raton down there, after what they did last year, running the table. I mean, no one heard of West Boca Raton before what they did last year. Now it's like everybody they know who West Boca Raton is, and actually, they got a good solid chance of making a run in 6A again. And the thing is that there's other teams lurking around this year that it should have been there closer to the end last year, weren't. But I think that's a lot more wide openness in terms of, okay, can West Boca get back, especially when there's still Buchholz lurking around in 6A. There's still Osceola there. There's Armwood. I mean, you got like a good core solid teams there in that 6A bracket that could just literally, that could give West Boca a run for their money. So, but if your terms are talking about teams, also, I feel like they're going to repeat. I mean, let's just start. I mean, 7A. I don't even think 7A Venice. Venice is a clear lock to repeat in that state for state champions this year, just because the way they've come out playing. It seems like one week it's Jekyll, and then there's the other week it's Mr. Hyde type scenario with Venice. But I just think, looking along, it's like 7A, 6A, probably some wide openness in terms of the teams can repeat there or not. But 5A, obviously, I think Aquinas ends up repeating just because it's Aquinas. And then 4A, American Heritage, 3A. Miami Northwestern, the transfers, people talking about this in-season transfer. It's a good cause rule. That's the fourth thing that's in the FHA rules. But it's something that's in state law that people are asking me is like, why? How can this be legal? Blah, blah. The FHA needs to do something about it. It's like, at the end of the day, here's the thing. The FHA hands are tied. If you're really upset about this, go talk to your state legislatures. Go talk to your state representative, your state senator, because they're the ones that, can either they can effectively reverse this state law that's in place that allows this to happen. So
I want you to know, that's a hell of an answer. Okay. You really went, by the way, when I went to high school, you know where I went? My parents said, Mark, you're going to this school. You're going there for 4 years, make it work.
That's the thing. I went to my high school. It was 4 years. That was it. And, I did my 4 years, but it's really one of those things. And that's where, Miami Northwestern, they had a dual quarterback situation. One of the quarterbacks is now transferring to American Heritage. So it's like that. And the Chaminade Madonna, they lost a player to Venice. So it's kind of going around robin cycle here. It really amazes me what is happening here. But at the same time, the state laws, the state statutes, that's opened the door up. And I don't know, are we sitting in a potential that Pandora's box is opening up even further? That's the big question mark. And right now, as I say, there's several classifications that are wide open in terms of who's gonna win that state title right now, especially based upon just the first 3 weeks, and we'll have week number 4 to look at after tonight.
Okay, so this morning, this is my final one. So this morning, someone posted on TikTok, which you're going to get better at, the Derrick Henry high school football mixtape. Okay, is that? I don't know. I've seen the Lamar Jackson one in the state of Florida. Maybe the question I can ask you is, since you've been around this for so long, who's the player you saw like, oh my God, and then he turned out to be great college NFL? Is it Derrick Henry? Who is it exactly?
Oh, I was there the night that Derrick Henry broke the national rushing record. So there you go.
Was it like, because I saw one time I was at the SEC title game and I stood by him on the sideline. And it's one of those moments where you're just like, wait, what? How are you going to tackle this guy? What was it like seeing him play in person for high school football?
Oh, he mows you down. I mean, he will mow you over. That's just it. You're the opposing team. You're the grass. He's the lawnmower. he mows you down. That's pretty much what he is.
He ran for 175 yards on the Buffalo Bills. Okay, and he's been in the league for like a decade. So I feel bad. Imagine you're a junior in high school. You just got a math class, and then you have to try to tackle this guy. Oh man, what about? Oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, no. Go ahead.
What was Lamar Jackson like then? Like,
when you think about Lamar Jackson, a lot of people didn't talk about Lamar Jackson in the high school. I mean, you just didn't hear his name as often as Derrick Henry. And that's the thing. But Derrick Henry was going after a national record. Lamar Jackson, he was just trying to get Boynton Beach to the playoffs. And that's the thing. That's the big difference there. It's one of those things. And as you know, we sit here and talk about it. I'm hoping that I can pull this up here as we're doing this, hoping that maybe, here we go. Let's see if I've got it here. Derrick Henry that year in his senior year, he averaged 327 yards a game, almost 328 yards a game. In his senior year. Senior year, he had 4,261 yards rushing.
So what? You just snap it, you give him the ball, and then
that's pretty much what Yulee did that year. They pretty much did. I mean, the quarterback only had 656 yards passing. I mean, if that tells you anything, Derrick Henry 55 touchdowns that year.
Yeah, that's one of those things I understand transfer portal. If you're one of his teammates on offense, like, yeah, maybe I should go play for someone else. Okay. I'm not getting the ball. I'm not going to do it. I'm trying to think. I watched the Saquon Barkley mixtape, the Reggie Bush one. Here's one you should watch. I know he's not from Florida. If you ever get a chance, watch the Danian Tomlinson mixtape. That one is there another one in Florida you could think of? Another player you saw and you're like, good Lord, this is amazing. I
mean,
I know this.
You know what? I don't know if this necessarily ranks up amazing, but I talked to my fiance about she's a fan of the Eagles, but I tell you like about Jalen Carter from Apopka, but I'm not necessarily totally like when that happened the other night. I'm like, that's not the Jalen Carter I remember playing football in Apopka because this is not him. Man, there are so many guys that I could, geez, it really is like it's hard to start calling out names outside of Derrick Henry because obviously Derrick Henry did what he did, breaking a national record. But I mean, there's just been so many good guys that have come through, and it's like when you start seeing these guys' names pop up in the NFL. I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson now doing what he's doing, but it's you know what? I gotta say this, Mark. For Lamar Jackson, what he does as a quarterback, for a quarterback out of the state of Florida, it's pretty difficult because usually your quarterbacks are coming from other places, especially like Texas and California. They're not coming from Florida being, lead mans of being the main signal caller for an NFL team. Obviously, you got Michael Penix Jr. now, obviously for Atlanta, that's doing his thing too. So, that was another good one right there, especially when his days at Tampa Bay Tech.
It's a great point. All right. This guy's going to be busy later tonight covering high school football all throughout the state of Florida.
We'll have plenty of scores for you, too.
You will. Follow him on X, Twitter, whatever he calls it. I'm with you. I still call it the Twitter. Florida.
It's still the bird, in my opinion.
Yeah, Florida, hsfootball.com. Josh, thank you so much, and I hope I can get you on again sometime. All right.
Appreciate it, Mark. I appreciate it. And I'll reciprocate and get you back on my show too.
Yeah.